available in video on YouTube and audio wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every week, Brock and James talk the latest rumors, news, and theories from a galaxy far, far away. Support us on Patreon for exclusive offers and join the Star Wars discussion. Patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
You're always scum. Rebel Scum.
Rebel Scum! We're here again, a little late, but no late, better than never, whatever. I'm Brock. This is, I got it, James. James is feeling under the weather, so talking is going to be tricky, and we are on a podcast. And once again, we got Heidi Fetter in the chat. Well, in the stream. You're usually in the chat, but you've been on the stream for the entire season of Skeleton Crew. I'm like, what's that show called? Now we have the finale under our belts. What did we all think?
I loved it.
Nice.
My only thing, there were unanswered questions. I hope they eventually get answered. I hope there's a season 2. What's going on with that Atten? How come it's run by a computer? And what happened to the other 8 planets?
Yeah, it's the fact that they had that chamber. It was like, here's all the other planets, and it was like, what? Actually, because it's a cast of kids, so we're expecting season 2 to be we're gonna jump a couple years because they'll probably be 20 years old by the time we see season 2. If it is, has season 2 been greenlit? Have we heard anything?
I know they're working on it. They want to do it. They have a script. A character who was cut is they hope to bring into season 2. Apparently, the reason she was cut is because it was a story being told at Jod's point of view, and they wanted the kids' point of view only, which seems odd since we had scenes on the pirate ship where the kids weren't involved. But apparently, that's why the scene was cut. If you spoilers, if you Google the cast, you will get a character. Haley Webb played her. It was her name was Jedi Nina. It was Nina Not, and it was like ... So I'm pretty sure that that's who his master was. So I don't know if the character got cut in the script or if they actually filmed the scene.
That's interesting. So it was she would be in the current. It wasn't like a what do you call that? Flashback or anything like that?
No, they were going to show a flashback apparently.
Oh, flashback, gotcha. Cool.
what he described, but they didn't want him having any flashbacks because they want everything from the kids' point of view.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But that is weird because there were things aboard the pirate ship where the kids weren't involved at all. But
yeah, I got you now. Yeah, because go ahead.
No, so I was just gonna say I don't know if they're gonna retain her or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that's where he got his last name, same as Rey, same as Han Solo, even Grogu. They took the last name of their mentor.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I agree with you, Heidi. It's it did leave a few things unanswered, but I think in a smart way, because this is how world building works, where you're like, well, what does that mean? But I feel like the conclusion of this season, it worked, and it was I don't know how much you guys thought. I wasn't predicting. I knew they would succeed, but I didn't see how the story played out the way. Did we think that was it a pretty pleasant ending?
Yeah, I thought so. It was very simplistic, which was nice. It didn't try to do anything. It didn't throw any curveballs at you. It just was here's the ending. There you go.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just wondering, when they were in the supervisor's office, there were seats. So apparently people did work there. I'm wondering if maybe the computer became sentient and merged with one of the droids and just took over the whole system. And maybe that's why that is the only planet that survived. Maybe that's why the other 8 failed, because it was
Yeah.
run by a computer. If you recall, when they went into at Akron, there was that statue that Wynn referred to as King No Head. So I don't think there was any like King No Head statue on at Atten.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what, if anything, happened to Tech Renard. Did they just hide the ship when he crashed and died, or maybe he reprogrammed it and decided he wouldn't stay there, just like Jod wanted to stay there? I don't know. There's so many answers, and I don't know how long they've been cut off. We know they got a signal from Order 66, but I mean, when Tech Renard landed on Akron, he ran into the same problem. There were warrior tribes and civil wars. So I mean, it had been going on for a long time. Well, I don't even know if the Empire had anything to do with it. And what does this computer know?
Yeah.
It probably knows a lot, and maybe it knows about the First Order because Jod destroyed it.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
maybe like Missouri, the Civil War in the U.S. was started fighting over whether Missouri was going to be a slave state or a free state. Maybe this is what's the beginning of the start of the Cold Civil War between the First Order and the New Republic, trying to get control of that Atten.
Yeah. Like, I think the only thing that I didn't like about the episode was that, like, Jod just like, I'm just gonna put my lightsaber through your eye and that's it. It's just like, so the supercomputer didn't have any contingency plans. It's just like, yeah, we'll be fine. It's gonna be okay. It's like, no, straight in the eye. It's just like, I know, like when you see like a creature, you're like, we gotta stick it right in the eye. If it has a big eye, we gotta take it out. But I was just like, oh man, because also like, you knew if they had a longer scene with the supercomputer, like, we're going to get some answers. And they're like, no answers. No.
Well, I was just going to say, if we don't get a second season, which I hope we do, and this is the same problem we had with Acolyte, although I think this is superior to Acolyte, there were a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah. I mean, this, you could spend the whole next season just talking about this. I think it'd be awesome.
But I want to point out that James's one crazy theory came true, at least in my head canon, because he said Luke and Han and Little Ben were going to show up at the end, and I think they did, and they that's Raider.
That'd be awesome. I honestly, yeah. Could you imagine those X-Wings land and it's like Luke pops out? I don't know if that works story wise, but I'm like, he pops out, it's like, oh, and here's Han. He lands the, we're like, the whole show just like derails where you're like, what?
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
James, you're muted.
You're welcome. One thing that I loved was when they explained Jod, because the whole time they told us he's a new kind of Jedi. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? and I liked it's still not really clear, but I like that it's an idea of a Jedi found this guy probably after Order 66, started to train, and then his Jedi quasi master got murdered in front of him. And I was like, that's kind of deep and dark, and I like that explanation for him. And this is like the thing they did with this is what we've been saying about kids shows forever. Is like kids shows when we were kids, they used to be like gritty, and then somewhere along the way they just stopped and they're all just like colorful, and this one was like, nah, the world's a terrible place. But everywhere they go, they were good people.
Yeah, that was a good message, actually.
Yeah, and it's true. Like every year, like, oh yeah, right. But you know who was bad? Jod. And everybody told them Jod was bad. Like every single person said Jod was bad. And so when people are surprised that Jod was bad, They literally told us week after week that John was just the bad guy. It's like, I guess no one should be surprised they didn't have a. I mean, I did like at the end though when Wim still calls for him at the end. And like Wim is still like, Jod, come on. And like Wim is like that guy, like the hopeful one who will in 20 years, Brock, maybe less than 20, will be your favorite Star Wars character because he will be an X-Wing pilot for sure.
No, probably, yeah.
Fern will be like a general.
Yeah.
Wim will be an X-Wing pilot, and Neil will be a Jedi.
Yeah, I like how he found new heroes at the end.
Yeah. It was a great show. It's just like I mean, I know that's not a great review. It's like it was a great show. It's like, but it's just like it says something about a show that when it finishes, you're like, let's watch it again. Like I'm kind of curious of just watching the whole thing straight through and like see the vibe. I don't think I really missed anything, but I think there might be an appreciation for the whole thing in general come the end. One thing we did call SM33, he's back, and they're like, yeah, dummy, you can just hold the head.
Yeah.
But we still don't know who fixed them. I guess she fixed them while she was waiting for them to get rid of the clamps, or unless it was the rat, I don't know. But the rat seemed to try to engage with the hologram, so it might not have been that smart.
Yeah, I think the mouse was just a mouse at the end of the day. Sooner brings up this point, contradicts how Kanan decided to do good. Jod went opposite, both saw their master killed. This is even Cal Kestis is like that, and Reva, right? Reva's like that. Like, those are all the same kind of scenarios. But I think Jod, what makes Jod different is I don't think his master was killed during Order 66. I think it was after Order 66. Mm-hmm. And he was found and he was kind of trained, and he never knew like pure light. Whereas Kanan was trained as a Jedi, and even Reva was trained as a Jedi. But Jod was being kind of trained as a Jedi, but he was like Anakin. He was too old already, right? And then when you see someone get murdered like that, so he's not fully trained either. He's like still like a raw skill. But I like that he used it more towards the end, because I was going into the episode, I'm like, he's never used it on a person, right? We had never seen him push a person or anything, and then at the end he did. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. But I still don't know if he could do a Jedi mind trick.
Yeah,
I don't think he can. I don't think he's that skilled yet. Only Rey can be that skilled.
Like he was like too afraid to use the Force, and that's why he couldn't. And for some reason, it took a while for his confidence to come back. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, if somebody's threatening to throw you out of an airlock, you're gonna be afraid, and maybe you can't use the Force, especially if you have any training. Much. But I think in his case, like he just couldn't be the good guy. He had to be the villain, because otherwise there was actually no reason to have him. Even though he was a great actor, he's a great character, there wasn't any reason to have him in the show unless he was the villain. Because if he was one of the good guys, you really didn't need him, because the show could have just been the kids and me running around space.
Yeah, and it would have worked totally fine. Like Brutus and crew chasing them would have been more or less good enough. You just give Brutus more speaking, like more monologues and more interesting character. But like, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's a little bit interesting to have a character that's like, we're not quite sure what you're up to, because nothing you say is reliable and you think too quickly on your feet. So, but yeah, no, I agree. It's like, if the main cast is mostly a bunch of kids, it's like Jude Law has to be the villain.
Right.
Like, and because he's not really the main character. Otherwise, it'd just be him in this, whatever. And it's like, I don't know if I could see him in any type of role that isn't him as a villain or him as like the Obi-Wan.
Mm. I think it speaks to how like well the show was written and performed, that even though they told us every week that he was the bad guy, we were all still like, he might not be. There's something else. Like, we were still waiting for it. And like, and you just said it, like, it makes no sense if he's a good guy. It's just, so it's like, I think this speaks to how well it was written,
Mhm.
and I mean, he added a lot to the show, but I think the kids were better when he was on screen. Like I think their performances elevated a little, and that's just what happens. But
Yeah.
I like the whole thing. I'm curious if he'll come back or not, and anything else.
I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a season 2, it's probably like they're gonna transport him, and the kids have to like testify against him, and they're like something's gonna happen. They got to team up again.
Season 2's a legal drama.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's dying for.
Well,
It's Ally McBeal in space.
I think we haven't talked about the most important thing. They return to Atten, and what is the first thing that Neil does? He takes a bubble bath.
Oh my gosh, I died literally.
I got to that part, and I'm like, Neil.
I was laughing so hard.
He was classic. He just fought like they're running, and they're on the bikes. The bike scene was great. I was just like, the bike scene happened, and I was like, this is a Disney ride. Desi, tell me I'm wrong.
So, speaking of the bikes, I thought this show was going to end with Fern racing the dude. But I will tell you, I knew it wasn't going to happen when everything got shut down in Atten, and the only things that work were the bikes.
Yes.
Once that happened, I was like, that's why we get it. That's the bike call. We still got the bike callback, but I was like, oh, okay. We're not going to get my race at the end like the 80s would have. This is what it's for. That's when I knew we weren't getting my dream ending.
Wait,
so.
you weren't wrong, because that kid shows up again.
Yeah.
The kid is there. I'm like, ah. But then like that bike ride, like the bike chase or the whatever, they're running off, and like Neil just falls off his bike saying, leave me. It's just like, I'm like, I swear, like, I just want a second season so Neil does stuff, and I'm like, Neil.
Oh, he fired the cannon.
Yeah. Oh, he was, and that was beautiful, because it was like, we went to this planet. It kind of explained how they were going to figure out how to get back to Atten. And they're like, oh, this is cool. Like, there's a whole bunch of planets that are like this, and it doesn't work on every planet. But then you get to this episode, and like the whole point is so that he can understand, oh, there are similar buildings. So that means there has to be a canyon here. I'm like, it's just like, that makes complete sense. You don't overly explain it. You're just like, done. Perfect.
I said this on the video I did with Rob before I got deadly sick. Was it felt like this show started with the answers, and they wrote the show to the answers, as opposed to other shows we watched where they're like, what's going on? Like, this one felt like they had it all, and they're like, let's get you there. And I think that's a big part of the success, is that when we watch it, we're never like the Jedi thing is the one I use as an example the most, but you're never frustrated with the telling of the story, because you know that we're getting what we need to get when we're getting it, and there's an answer. It's like there's never a concern that I won't get, even though there were obviously things that weren't answered. But I think all the major parts, like the major plot points, were all kind of answered. Like the kid stuff that pertained to them was mostly all answered. As my voice goes into a state of mute now.
But my final thought on Neil, besides Neil being amazing, I just looked up Wikipedia, and it looks like he finally has a species. It's Myykian, Myyykian. It's no longer Neil's species. We waited eight episodes to finally have an update on that.
By the way, did you see his dad, Neil's dad?
Yeah.
Put Neil's dad in a room with Jod and just have him punch him.
See, his look was ruined for me on the internet, because apparently Topps or Fleer or like whatever trading card company, they put out cards for this, and they had one of Neil's dad. I'm like, oh. Which makes me like psyched. I'm like, if I find those cards, I'm absolutely buying. Like that they should put that out for every show, because you're just like, whoa, look at this. Like, I will fall for that every time.
I wonder if that's a hidden Mickey.
A hidden Mickey
Oh my god. No, I thought I love that all the kids got their moment to shine. Like they just, it's like they knew how to write an ensemble. Like everyone did something, and nothing took away from anyone else doing it. It was just, it's like I was like, oh yeah, remember when people used to be able to write? Now we always complain like things taking away this and that. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know. An ensemble's an ensemble. Everybody gets a moment to shine. That makes sense for that character. Like KB and the ship made sense, and Neil, like you said, with the gun made sense, and then Wim getting his chance with the lightsaber, which it's like the first episode we see him pretending to want to be a Jedi, then we see him failing miserably with it. Then he gets to be the hero with it, but he needs Fern, who's learned the whole 8 episodes of how to become this leader and like work together as a team. Like it's just like everything was great. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And Fern's mom is the worst.
Well, I want to talk about the true star of the show, Wendell.
Ah, yes, the dad.
And
he grew on me, by the way. He grew on me a lot.
Anyone out there named Wendell, I apologize for this, but that character just screams Wendell. I mean, Luke was the only character up until then who had a regular, like, Earth name or Anglo-Saxon name. It's just, and I'll be honest,
Watto's pretty.
Watto.
When he started to do his 5th, I thought, oh, is he going to use the Force? And like, no, he did a McFly, not Marty McFly, George McFly.
George McFly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I almost texted you, Brock, I was like, oh my God, Wim's dad's the Jedi. I'm not gonna lie, I was very happy that nobody ended up being it. Nobody used the Force other than Jod, because it would have came out of nowhere at that point, I think.
Yeah.
But that character at first I was like, I don't think I like the parents. I don't need the parents. And he grew on me as the show went on. He definitely grew on me.
I mean, I said this on X. It's basically a show about a Star Wars fan, Wim, who ends up actually going on a Star Wars like adventure, but it's not Star Wars exactly. And I will say that the ending, which is very Pixar, showing his book at the end, with them appearing as the final chapter and then closing the book, they were part of the book, as if the person watching the show was actually reading Wim's book.
Yeah, like I like that too, because like they didn't really do. No, it was just black screens for all the other episodes. And I was like, oh, cool. It's like, I remember the book in the first episode, and like that really captured my imagination. And to see like stories that we hadn't seen, like imagine if there was no other Star Wars. There was just a show called Skeleton Crew that starts it all. Like that would totally be like, what are these characters? Who's that? Who's like this dead person, this person battling this person? What's that massive monster thing that the one Jedi's facing off? But I agree, Heidi. It was like, it's a perfect ending because it's like they'll probably make season 2, but if they don't, we're like, that's the story. Goodbye. It's just like, it was a perfect like subtle ending. I did like that as well.
Speaking of subtle, I want to know like opinions about Jod's smile at the end, because there's 2 theories. I actually have a third theory. The theory everyone's thinking is that he's smiling because he's planning his next move, his next con. The other theory is that he realized that he was wrong. Sometimes the good guys do win. But my theory is that he was actually happy that they outwitted him, because they wouldn't have been able to do that unless he had mentored them. Like there was a bit of pride on his part. He was actually able to mentor these kids, even though they got on his nerves and they ended up beating him. But there's no way they could have beaten him unless he had trained them like that.
I like that. It kind of makes him feel like a Hondo character where you're like, like it's like, this was my plan all along, and then he disappears and then comes back a couple episodes later, sort of thing. Yeah, like his season 2, it'll make sense if he comes back, because it's like you're never done with this guy. He's a trickster. He's like Loki. It's like you can't get rid of him. He's just all the way around.
I mean, to Dudley's point, I think, nobody ever thinks they're the bad guys. I mean, even someone like Adolf Hitler didn't think he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
So I think he thought he was justified in everything he was doing. He just wanted to retire on this planet, and these people keep doing what they're doing, and he could finally retire in this idealistic life. He wasn't going to get that because the pirates were going to get out of hand, and they were probably going to try and overthrow him. But I think he wanted to live. I think Tack Renard, that was his dream too. We don't know if he was successful or not, if he died in the crash, or if he was able to live among the civilians. But yeah, I think he just wanted a nice planet to live on, and he was jealous of his kids. That's what he wanted. What's interesting, he seemed very upset over thinking that KB had died. Now, most people thought he was bonding with Wim. I think he felt closer to KB because she got him out. She could fix things. She got him out of the situation on what was the name of that pleasure planet?
Oh, it was an L word, but
Lunesta or something.
Lunesta. I was gonna say Sephora, but that's the makeup store.
But and also when he's yelling at them and calling them out, I don't think he says her name. He says them up because Fern's the one he despised the most. Then he says Neil and Wim are the worst. But if you notice, he doesn't say KB's name. So I think of the four, I think he preferred KB over the others. But I could be wrong. But you could tell he was really upset when he thought he died.
I'm trying to find the planet name, but I can't find it.
Yeah.
Lupa?
I think it was like Lupino or something.
Yeah. You know what? You make a good point. Though also KB's the most, like you just said, sort of the most useful, but she's also she doesn't give anybody a hard time. You know what I mean? Fern is always oh yeah, and then Wib's let's touch everything, and then Neil is Neil. But KB's calm and collective and, a little bit more aware of the world around her because she can interact with machines. So maybe that's one of the things too.
La Nupa.
Okay, there you go.
Nupa.
Sounds like dog food.
La Nupa. This is a good question here from the Lone Phoenix. How did the ship become the key if the pirate wasn't the supervisor? That was one thing that I was still kind of, because they're like, this is it's not a pirate ship, it's an admin ship.
Yeah.
Why? How did it become an admin ship?
Well, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think he just commandeered it and built his ship around it. How he found, that's the thing. We don't know how. That's another mystery that needs to be solved.
I was just wondering this, when they enter the atmosphere, the barrier on the planet, what happens? Do they explode? Do we see what happens to that one pirate ship that goes in? Or he just disappears?
I think they just didn't want to show it because it's a kid's show. But I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's because I was just thinking, what if he didn't actually have clearance and maybe the barrier just shuts down your entire ship and it just crashes, and then maybe it crashed into the dirt, just whatever.
Didn't 33 say he purposely crashed the ship because the crew were all stabbing each other?
Oh yeah, you might be right. Because it's just it would. I'm sure there'll be a really clever way of explaining it, because that's definitely something we want to know. But it's just sort of maybe if the ships blow up, then that goes out the window, right? So
yeah,
there's something special about the ship for sure. Could you imagine if it's it's actually Wim that somehow gone into the past and became this pirate? It's he figured out a way how to leave, whatever, and then whatever is it's just a vicious cycle. Anyways,
when Star Wars becomes Star Trek.
Yeah, basically.
I thought it was solid. Oh,
Yeah, go
here's a
ahead.
question: why did he ignite his lightsaber? Really?
He's like,
At
look.
the beginning. I know.
He's
I
like,
know, he's like,
I'm here. I'm the emissary. I've tricked the AI into thinking I'm from the Republic. It's like, I don't know.
I think
It's
it was just. I think he thought it would give himself gravitas, and he didn't realize that the computer would be up to date on Order 66. Maybe he didn't know what Order 66 was. He didn't
Yeah.
know he's a Jedi until somebody said. I mean, Force sensitive until she found them.
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, talking about ships and crashes, it's like at Atten's like little city is definitely ruined. So like the next season can be a 5-year jump, so we don't have to be like, we rebuilt. It's like you can see the effects a couple years later, and they're like, oh, they had to like rethink their entire society now because you blew up our robot. And then also it's like, do they become part of the New Republic at this point? Because now they're like, hey, none of the things you thought is real anymore. So are we going to return to Ad-Aden, you think, or are we just going to have these characters dropped into some other scenario?
I
I
think
mean,
it'll be a different scenario.
yeah. I mean,
don't
I
think so.
definitely want to find out what happened.
Yeah. I'm absolutely down to like have a show that just goes more into this mythology of what these planets were.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
might get that in the second season, but I don't think I don't think they'll show any rebuilding in a season 2. I just don't think they will. I'm not against it. I just
No.
We
they
might
said
get
there's going to be a time jump though for sure.
comments about what happened. I'm sorry. I was just trying to find something. So the name of the biker is I think it's Bonj Falfa, and that was a take on Harrison Ford's character Bob.
American Graffiti.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
And there's he's in more American Graffiti where he actually plays a cop. Just so you know, if you ever want to have like a really good movie experience, watch American Graffiti. And then if you just want to be miserable for 2 hours, watch the sequel.
I hate
It's so depressing. They're like, now we're going to show you how Toad goes missing in Vietnam. I'm like, I don't want to watch that. And also, what is it, Ron Howard and they're like, they hate each other. You're like, what is happening? Is anybody happy in this damn movie? You know, who's that? Richard Dreyfuss. He's not in it.
And then you see the guy die.
Yeah, it's like American Graffiti is so good. You're like, I love this movie. Then you watch a sequel, you're like, I hate my life. I hate everything about living.
Nice.
The B-Wings were the star of the series, even from that one episode.
Yeah, look good.
I guess
I was like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just like, oh, right, they shoot lasers. I forget about that.
Yeah. So you guys know my pet peeve of Disney Star Wars has been for the last 10 years, right? It's the sound of the lightsabers. The sound of the lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So for whatever reason, Monday night, I said we don't watch TV with Selena, right? So I said on Monday night, I'm like, Selena, do you want to watch Star Wars? She goes, Star Wars. Because Heidi, you got her a Star Wars blanket for Christmas last year, and she loves it. And she goes R2, like she does. So like, Selena, you want to watch Star Wars? She goes, Star Wars. So I said, okay. And I put on the Phantom Menace, and Aaron's like, why this one? Blah, blah. I'm like, Aaron, stop it. We're watching Phantom Menace. So I put it on, and by the way, her favorite part of it, not a word of a lie, just the fish when they jump in the Gungan city, like the fish, just the fish swimming. Okay. And then when like the Gungans were talking, she was kind of like, what are these? It was kind of fancy. Yeah. But then I fast forward and the lightsaber turns on. And I was like, oh, I love lightsaber. Like, and it sounded, but then the next day I watched Skeleton Crew and I'm not nuts. I'm not insane. They're so different sounding. I was like, oh. I felt relieved that I'm not insane, but like just use freaking audio from the Phantom Menace, man.
No,
just it's like it sounds more like bassy now. Like it's not as it's almost too clean and bassy than the old one. It's so fun. I'm like, oh man, yeah. It was weird. I felt anyway. I wanted to bring that up. Does not ruin any of the movies. It just
It's like Kermit doesn't sound quite the same.
Joe, our friend Joe, sent me an Instagram video,
Yeah.
and it was the Jim Henson. And all I could think of was like, oh yeah, that's Kermit.
Yeah.
I forgot how Kermit sounded until then.
Yeah.
Actually, Selena somehow loves Elmo, like just his voice and his picture, like in a book. She's obsessed with Elmo. It makes no sense. But at Christmas, we played Elmo Saves Christmas.
Right.
And Ernie and Bert sing, and they don't sound like Ernie and Bert. And I'm like, who are these supposed to be, Ernie and Bert? And I was trying to figure it out, and they were. I was like, gosh, they don't even sound like them anymore. They're just like dudes. It's like me and you voicing Ernie and Bert. Just using
Go back and watch old, like original, like 1970s Sesame Street. Like, they're a little bit more adult joke, not really adult jokes, but
yeah.
Like the guy who sells illegal vowels on the street, you know.
Yeah. Stuff that would not fly today. You're like, yikes.
Lone Fingers, I should say, I don't have anything against the design. It's just the sound that throws me off. I think they look cool.
Yeah.
I like the part where Wim was trying to talk to Neil, and they're like, can't talk. The droids they're gonna tell John, and then he gets caught. And then he turns around, the action figure goes, oh no, we gotta see Princess.
Yeah, that was great. Oh no, Princess Bird, I love you, Wim. Just like perfect, like, and the kids can pull it off, you know, like that says a lot. Like, I don't know if you saw any of the interviews with those kids on like Instagram or Twitter. Sorry, X. They had like a chemistry, and like they're just being kids, but like you could tell that they bonded as like friends on the thing, and it works. And they're good actors, so
it helps when they get along too, though. Like if they didn't like each other, it probably wouldn't be as much fun. But it feels like they were at camp together.
Yeah.
I was watching. It was interesting. It was like Easter eggs of the entire season. And they get to the point where Wim's eating cereal, and then they show the guy from Andor eating Cyril.
Yeah.
Eating cereal. And it just dawns on me, like, you got a kid eating cereal, but then a guy who's treated like a kid eating cereal. And I don't know if that was on purpose or what. Some guy who's like pushed around by his mother is eating cereal like he's a little boy, the way she treats him, and then there's a kid actually eating cereal. Yeah. And you really don't see anyone else eating cereal in the Star Wars universe.
It's not Star Wars appropriate. It does not make sense. How would they have Fruit Loops in another galaxy? How? They don't have corn?
I gotta say that I saw people complain about the suburban look of Aladdin for 8 weeks, and I'm just like, but have you not seen Coruscant, which is just like a city, right? Like this is like the suburban version of that. So I never had a problem with it, even in this one, and it was still out there. Like the thing came up from the ground, they went down in. And I don't know. I think like at some point everything's gonna have to evolve anyway. Like you say, Brock, like it can't keep the status quo. So I think they're gonna have to figure these things out. And again, to go on this journey to experience what they experience, they have to come from what we perceive as normal. Because if they live somewhere abnormal, going somewhere abnormal isn't abnormal to us. Yeah. How many times can I say abnormal?
It's in like you gotta keep in mind that this was like a society run by AI and robots. So it's just like if it doesn't seem to look like everything, it's because people aren't actually in charge. They are the livestock that is on the planet. So it's like, yeah, it makes once you understand that like it's all being run by the great and terrible Oz, you're like, oh, okay. And whatever. It made sense. I don't know.
So soon to throw into the Pirate from Mando vein in Skeleton Crew, which shows first was Mando before, after, because that it is the same pirate. What they did was they made Mandalorian season 3, and they liked that character so much that they threw him in here. This has to be after because he's with Gorian Shard in Mando, and then
Yeah.
Shard dies, but I don't think I'd put too much thought into it.
Yeah.
I heard
Like, that's,
it's like running at the same time. Like we're
yeah,
watching.
maybe.
It's like happened right after.
Yeah, and that's what it's all Mando time. I honestly sooner that's not something that I would concern my thoughts with because it would just drive you crazy.
He's in two different pirate crews where their ship goes down and explodes. It's like maybe you're the problem.
Yeah. Did he survive this one?
I don't know. I don't remember surviving the other one.
I just love that they plucked him out of Mando and they're like,
Yeah.
but he's still not that important.
I don't think Urkel survived. I think Urkel went down with the ship.
Yeah, I think he went down with the ship, which sucks because
Pretty
it's
sure.
like you could have kept him around.
Pretty sure Urkel's going to be in the Filoni movie.
I found an Easter egg no one else did because it's a forgotten movie because it killed Canon Studios. But when they're like pirates are on the streets and they're invading and they're marching in, it reminded me of Masters of the Universe when Skeletor and his army lands on Earth and starts trying to take over for a while.
And when I was a kid, there were two movies that I begged my parents to rent for me. One was, oddly enough, is the same actor. One was Masters of the Universe because I was a massive He-Man fan, and the other was Punisher because I love Punisher. And they refused to rent either one for me because they were both terrible movies. And I don't know. I was a kid, and then one time I had my mom. I think my mom convinced to rent Punisher for me, like convinced. And I had it in my hand. She goes, "Fine," and I'm bringing it to the counter. And then this guy goes, "That's the worst movie ever made. Don't waste your money on it." And I was
my God.
I'm like, dude, I'm like 9 or 10. I'm like, it's been like, I've been trying to convince my parents forever. So she's like, "Go put it back and pick something else out." And I was like, oh. And then I think I picked like Child's Play 3.
Oh, God.
I don't know. It was just like, anyway, but I've seen both of them since then. But
yeah,
and I understand why I was denied all those times.
Yeah. So how where do we place this series on a scale with the rest of the Star Wars?
Are we doing a ranking? Because you were the one to do a ranking.
We will do a ranking at some point.
Yeah,
I like ideas.
But I like to say only season ones because you can't compare. Like everyone's like, "Oh, but after season 2, Mando went downhill." It's like, yeah, but nothing else has happened other than the season. Like you can't compare. Like Andor season 3 could be the worst season of television if it happens. It's not happening, obviously. You know what I mean? For me, though, I'd give this an 8.7 out of 10 because I'm generous. I don't care. I'll go Mando, Andoria, Skeleton Crew. Whatever. Boba Fett is my favorite. And then whatever. Who cares? We'll stop at Skeleton Crew. But it's my third favorite, I think. And I'm going to rewatch it. And the only one I've rewatched so far is Boba Fett and Mando, season 1. I haven't rewatched season 2 or 3 of Mando, just season 1.
Yeah. I agree. Like I would put those 3 in that order because it's just like, regardless of if there's more to the story, it's like this is a self-contained thing that's perfect. It's great. Like I want more. I think it's like if the series ends and you're like, I want more, and I feel satisfied, then it's a success.
I mean, I guess I would say Andor. Mando. I liked Book of Boba Fett season 1 better than Mando season 1. I know James is going to argue with me. So I mean, they're very close. I would put Skeleton Crew 4th. But I will say that all the TV shows for me are very close because for every weakness there's a strength.
Yeah. No, it's just sort of like I'm curious how people that aren't like us or people in the chat, like how are they approaching the show? Like I think Skeleton Crew has a pretty good rating on like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff like that, but like do you think normies, as I always like to call them, are gonna like try this show and be like, yeah, fun?
So the ratings have been bad for the show. but they've been going up. I am curious though, because I think word of mouth has been very good. But and here's the conundrum that I think Star Wars finds itself in is it's a really good show, but it has nothing to do with anything. Right.
Yeah.
So I've seen people be like, this is what Star Wars should be. It shouldn't concern itself with the overall narrative. Like, okay. But if you want people like if you want normies to watch it, they're going to want to feel like they're watching something that has like that is included in something else, like a bigger story. That's kind of like the Marvel era that we live in now. So it's like I don't know. So what I'm saying is, word of mouth has been good and it was growing, and I thought the ratings would go up on a binge watch. I think a lot of people are like, I'll just wait and binge it. But with it not having any connections to anything, some people might just pass on it. And now I didn't have a problem with it not connecting to anything because I really don't care. It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
The thing is, Star Wars always connects to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Even when it doesn't connect to Star Wars because it's in Star Wars. But I just think, I don't know how you would connect, but if like the ship that came in, if they would have cut to someone on the ship, maybe that would height. But then that's just a cheap move. But so yeah, I don't know. I think the word of mouth was very strong on this one. So I think ratings could go up, and I think it's being enjoyed by a lot of people though.
I mean, I think they need to stick. I think they need to stick these shows on ABC or Fox.
Yeah.
I'm not saying drop it right away. Maybe wait a year or two. But if you want to save these shows, you gotta get them out there.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing too. Sorry, is Heidi? Last week you said that Skeleton Crew was #1 on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And the ratings weren't good enough to be like to hit. So are there just not enough eyes on Disney Plus right now? Like that's another question. Is maybe you're right. Maybe they need to go on ABC or Fox or somewhere else to get people to watch it, because maybe people just aren't subscribing to Disney right now, or just don't watch things on Disney or whatever.
I know some people are mad at Disney. They don't like the prices, how they hike things up. They don't like some of the policies. So I think there is some revenge.
Yeah. But I found the loophole how to not to watch commercials.
Throw up.
Throw up, man. If you throw up,
I mean, I know
pause again. It didn't no commercials again.
I know there
No
are
half
people.
naked.
Oh, I'll have to watch that. But I know there were people who, as soon as their show's over, they drop Disney and they wait till it comes back and then they get Disney again. So I don't know.
I did that. I canceled my Disney on Christmas Eve because that's when my 3-month plan ended. So I was like, damn it, I can't see Skeleton Crew. So I canceled it. And I was going to figure it out. And then the minute I canceled it, they're like, do you want to cancel? I said, yep. Like, what if we give it to you for this cheap price? Like, well, it's not as cheap as before, but all right. So I did it. So I was like,
Nice.
whatever.
I mean, honestly, I wasn't going to get Disney Plus at all. The only reason I got Disney Plus is because when I got my Verizon at the time, which was my phone plan, they were giving it away for a year. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys got that.
It's strange because it's like Netflix isn't doing much different from what Disney, or rather, I mean, they started streaming. So it's like what they do sets the precedent. So Disney Plus isn't doing anything hugely different. Like, I've never paid for Netflix, so maybe I can't comment on this, but it's charging you a certain amount per month, and now they have tiers. So they're like, well, everybody's doing this, and they take away you can't share with so many households or whatever like that. But Disney does that as well, but Disney's also a production company that can make its own content. So Netflix is more or less doing the same. I mean, they will give people to go or they will buy something from someone, and then they'll make the Adam Sandler deal, stuff like that, because they got bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's I think what Disney Plus is missing is the Netflix I don't know what you would call it, like drink the Kool-Aid, because it's like, is it because Netflix was first and now people are like, oh, everyone like it's like, I'm not gonna get MTV, but I'll still have CBS and ABC. So it's like whatever's on those channels, because those were always around, I'll watch that. So is it because Netflix just has corners the market because everyone's like Netflix, right? It's like most people just say, I'm going to Google that. They don't like, I'm going to go to Yahoo and check out, like, I'm going to look something up. You know what I mean? So, like, maybe it's the Blu-ray, HD, VHS, beta, Oreo versus, oh God, what's that cookie that almost beat them out? Hydrax. Like, it's just like, I can't really make sense of it, because, like, I think it does boil down to, what do you watch more? Like, I keep Disney Plus because I watch all the Star Wars stuff. I'll watch the Marvel things, and then I watch all the other, like, sitcoms that there's on it. So, like, anything that comes on our Star or Hulu, I'll watch it on there. So it's like there's always at least one thing I'm watching, and then, like, oh, what else is on here? You know? So it's like, I think it goes at what you're looking for. And for some people, I don't think they know what they're looking for, but Netflix has ingrained in their minds, like, you're going to want to watch the next season of Squid Game.
It's true. When Netflix puts something out,
Yeah.
everyone's like, did you watch that? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like, but like, I'm the idiot for not. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know what it
and
is.
it's like, it's like Netflix drops something and you watch it. And if you don't watch it, it's just like you're looked at like you have four heads. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. How have you not watched it yet?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I did drop my Netflix to commercials, and Aaron got annoyed, but you know, it is what it is. You deal with it. Move on.
It's like, you either pay the premium or you just because they're all gonna do it.
It's a $10 difference.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like, it's $10. It's not like $1 here, $1 there. It's $10. I was like, are you insane? Give me my money back. I make commercials for a living. I'll sit through a couple. Don't worry about it. We're good. We got this.
But it's like, think of all the different, like, either cable plans or even cell phone plans, like Heidi was mentioning, where they're like, we'll give you this for free. It's just like, everybody gets the taste for free, and then you gotta pay. Like, they're just dealing drugs. They're dealing drugs to us. That's what they're doing.
I mean, I know, like YouTube, you can rent Paramount Plus shows on YouTube, like if you want to see Frasier or Beavis and Butthead, or Star Trek.
Right.
You can't do Disney shows with that, but I do know you can rent shows through YouTube. And actually, you can rent a lot of old shows through YouTube. But you got to pay for the show, but you don't pay for the service. Yeah. I mean, I have YouTube Premium because I hate commercials, but
right.
All right, let's go to the odds.
Let's do it.
The possibility of successfully navigating an asteroid field is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Brought to you, me, and Heidi, and James, and all the people in the chat by Patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast. If you like what we do, why don't you head on over to Patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast and support us in any way you can. We get you some juicy content when we can. Who knows? We're always up to something. Right, James? That's right, bro. And we want to thank all the wonderful people that will support us in any way they can. Those people are executive producer Heidi Feder, Harry Brovey, Dennis Allen, Sooner Thrawn, Randy Kenobi, Mary Kristen Aton, Dale Erdman, Phil Stanforth, Rez, Scott D.,
Josh Price, Matt W., Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, Cosmic Girl 02, Gleek Play 1, Denim Nurse, Disney Desi, Charlotte, Ron Prasak, and Jeff Wilson. And I hope everybody could understand me.
Thank you. Support us in any way you can so we can buy James medicine so he can feel 100% again.
It's what a rough week.
Could you imagine if Bacta tanks were a thing and this wouldn't be your problem right now?
I'd just be living in that right now.
Yeah.
Never Tell Me the Odds. Season 2. We'll get a season 2 of Skeleton Crew.
I'm gonna go 99%. Like, well, but you're like the ratings thing does. It's strange.
Yeah.
So who knows?
They canceled Acolyte pretty fast.
Yeah.
But this was critically and fan received better than Acolyte on like Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Heidi?
I'm gonna go 75%. I'm pretty sure they're gonna do it only because the only thing is I'm worried about the ratings, but I know that Favreau and Filoni have already writing scripts. So they're really gonna be pushing for it.
I'm gonna go full Brock.
Yeah, I think it happened.
Yeah, maybe. But it could also be they could also pull like those answers, give it to us in other shows. So Throne's going 90%.
By the way, I just want to point out real quick that we were all wrong about Jod turning on the pirates. We were like, oh yeah, 100% he's gonna turn on the pirates.
Heidi, we never bring back past odds we got wrong. We never bring back past odds we got wrong ever. Never Tell Me the Odds. We will see Wim when he is older in real time, training to be an X-Wing pilot.
I hope so. I mean, I think I say this every time we have a show. It's like, okay, if you don't make a season 2, put these characters in something else, right? But don't be like, "Baba, here they are." They just exist. It's like how they keep dropping Zeb and things. Like, I love it. So, I'm gonna go 80%.
I'm gonna go 90. I'm pretty sure they took time. They took a lot of time to point out he wants to do that now. He's found his new heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess depends on like, are we gonna wait 10 years? Like real time? So I'm gonna go 61%.
Nice.
Oh my god. He's not a Jedi. Actually, Ron has an odd. What are the odds that Grogu will speak in the movie?
Oh, God, can you imagine that? Just like the end.
I mean, I don't see how they pull it off without looking silly. I don't know. Maybe you guys know the business. I don't. I can't.
It get tiring. He loses his cuteness the minute he speaks. He loses his cuteness.
And then what people gonna want him?
Although, you know what, having a daughter now, they actually kind of get cuter when they start talking because they say the weirdest things, and you're just like, okay, whatever. Like my daughter made me 77 teas this morning. It was fantastic.
77.
Dada tea, toast, butter. Okay, butter, dada, butter. Okay, butter. And then she leaves and comes back with like a tray of her fake food toys, and I was famished.
I'm just gonna say 10% because if it is, it's the closing scene.
Yeah.
Or an end credit.
I want to say 15% or something like that. I've always leaned on like if he's Yoda's race, they stay alive for a long time. So it's like if it's been 50 years and he's still kind of a baby, like then in another 50 years, like maybe he's like a full grown child at that point, or like talking and whatever. It's like I would rather come into a story way in the future and he's closer to adulthood, and then like we don't need to explain it. It doesn't need to be awkward. It's just like, oh yeah, that's me. I used to be in like a little flying bassinet.
I just don't want Teen Grogu, like Teen Grogu. I don't need that. I'm gonna go. I'll go full Brock again. Hey Dusty, my cat is like, oh hi, what's up? You want to come up? What's going on?
Oh.
Let me go. But I've been sick and she's been all over me.
Nice.
What are you doing? On our final odd. Never tell me the odd. Jod Nana Wood will return.
100% if they do a season 2, obviously, but like I think you bring him back regardless.
One just wants to see some Ben murder people. I don't know.
I know. Ben Solo kills everyone,
Everybody.
including half the fandom, apparently. Jod Nana Wood will return.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 75%.
Yeah. I'm gonna go 80%, I guess. I can't remember if I said something already.
I'll go 80 as well because
Nice.
you have Jude Law at your disposal, which
Yeah.
you use Jude Law. There we go. Brock, do you have news?
No.
That means I don't have to sing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there you go. Right on. Let's do the
everyone's pretty high on Jod returning.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, as long as like Jude Law had a good experience on this show, like I don't see why he wouldn't want to come back.
Yeah, apparently they call him and like he's just a massive Star Wars fan because everybody is.
Yeah.
So our top 5 today is top 5 helmets because that makes sense. Because Captain Silva wears a helmet, that'd be fun to do helmets. My number 5 is the Death Trooper helmet. Death Trooper helmet.
Nice. I'm gonna say Jod's helmet because I'm like, looks like Cobra Commander.
Honestly, I text you this, Brock. Jude Law's like, I will do this if I wear a cool helmet, if I'm a Jedi, and if I can wield a lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's like, and they're like,
all the things.
Yeah, all the things.
Well,
And I want to be bad because bad guys are more fun. They're like, we got you.
Well, I think Lizzo's stipulation was that she got the whole baby or something. But,
That sounds right.
well, I'm actually my number 5 is actually going to be one I actually love the character and I think the helmet's awesome, but I think it's silly looking. Like it looks like the villain from Smiley, so I have to go with the Cortosis helmet worn by Chimere, the Acolyte.
Oh yeah. I was like, is
That
that what
one-
it's called?
So that one didn't make my list, but it was up. It was really that one and Silvo didn't make my list, but they were both very close, actually, to be honest. But I'm biased towards certain ones. So my number 4 is Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren.
My number. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my number 4 is Leia's helmet in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I think Jod's helmet was reused. They reused that one for Jod's helmet because it looked like her mask with the big bowl on top.
Yeah.
Also, I think Star Trek Deep Space Nine lifted it for a race of characters called the Breen. It's the exact same helmet if you go.
Oh, okay. Right on. My number 4 is gonna be oh god. It was a clone helmet, and it just like the character's name just went straight out of my head. Not Commander Cody, the
Rex.
other one. Rex, thank you. Because as we know, it was like the original Boba Fett, and like the little wolf, or not even wolf, like just like the little ear things. Looks good. If I were to buy one that wasn't just a go-to Stormtrooper helmet, it'd probably be that one.
My number 3 is Scout Trooper. Scout Trooper. Love it. Scout Trooper, Shore Trooper, all those troopers. Love the Scout Trooper, though. My headcanon, that's still Ezra in Rogue One.
My number 3, this is a tough one because I wanted to go with a Mandalorian. But there's only one Mandalorian helmet that sticks out, and that's the armor.
Oh yeah, that is sick. I love that, like that actress. Her name escapes me. It's something Swallow. It's like she goes to conventions dressed up like that. Like she like just lives that character. It's so cool. My number 3. Ugh. I'm gonna go with Snow Trooper because it's just like, ooh, what's behind that little sheet? Just more mask.
My number 2 is Darth Vader.
Nice.
Okay, I can't do that
My what was my number 2? I can't remember her name. We thought she was a villain, but it turned out she wasn't the anti-hero in Solo.
anymore. Oh, Memphis Nest.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's sick. That's a character I wish we could see again. My number 2 is gonna be Stormtrooper because come on, Stormtrooper.
Yeah, that's my number 1 because I love Stormtroopers.
Yeah, I know you wrote your list on our rundown. I was like,
But I changed it. No, Heidi didn't get that.
I know you changed it.
But Heidi didn't actually get that. I caught it
Aha.
before I said Heidi.
Nice.
Stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with the OG Darth Vader.
Yeah. So is my number 1.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I knew you guys were gonna pick that number 1, so I changed it up.
And Disney's probably mad at me that I didn't choose Kylo Ren, but we want to look at his face anyway. So
I arguably think his mask looks cooler in Rise of Skywalker when he's got the stupid red and looks.
Yeah.
You're like, why? Because it looks cool. And I'm like, all right, JJ, you got me this time. I agree. I always liked his mask.
Kymir's mask reminds me of that version of Kylo's helmet.
It sucks that Acolyte was received the way it was. I hope we get more of that character though.
Yeah.
That's whenever anyone thinks of the show, like that character, the idea there's something there that they could build on. They won't because they're good at that, but they should.
Yeah. All right.
Solo, man. You have Darth Maul waiting in the wings. They're like, pass. Put that on Disney Plus. Pass.
I want to point out that it was Bryce Dallas Howard who said that they should use Darth Maul because that's who Ron Howard went to and asked her.
Oh yes,
and she said Darth Maul.
Which is another problem altogether that they just kind of made it up on the spot. Like maybe have a plan. Also, Star Wars. It's like nothing.
Nah.
Just look. Skeleton Crew is proof. When you have a plan, it pays off. It pays off. Yeah.
And that was a group of people working together. It's just
yeah. Like I know like you want things to be a surprise and whatever, but you got to know what the surprise is.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, whoa, something.
I mean, I said I wanted Mando and Grogu to show up, not because I wanted fan service or Easter eggs. To me, it just made sense to the story because you've got a bounty out on kids. So who's going to see that and want to save those kids? It's gonna be it's gonna be Din Djarin. So that's the only reason that crossed my mind. It's kind of like Luke's showing up at the end of season 2. Who else is gonna show up? It makes sense. So
Plo Koon.
Plo Koon.
I mean, that being said, how would you have felt if the Millennium Falcon showed up instead of the Tantus Freighter?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made much sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right because it's supposed to take place in this Mandoverse, so some hint to it, but maybe later down the road.
Yeah.
Smash the like button.
Smash it.
All right. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap this up?
Nope.
I was going to say, check the board. Check the board.
Oh,
oh yeah. Retired.
She out of here. She's out of this Burger King.
She's moving to Florida for retirement.
Have some. I was thinking about that fried gator that we had in Florida. Remember that fried gator?
Yeah.
We had fried gator, and then you and Aaron were too cool to put on sunscreen.
That's right.
And I was like sitting on that dock, and I'm like, guys, I need sunscreen. You're like, you are white. And I'm like, yeah. And I went and I spent like $90 on a bottle, and you both refused it. And both of you got fried,
Yeah.
and I was fine.
And I fell asleep in the back seat like this.
Yes, you did. And that was a thumbnail for like all of our videos from that Florida trip.
You basically became the fried
Yeah.
alligator.
Oh, they both gave me a hard time on putting on sunscreen. Like they were like, we're too cool for this, James. You need to know your role. And I was like, I know my role. Look at that. I glow in the dark.
Yeah.
And that was an expensive sunscreen, though. I'll tell you that.
I'm whiter than most Canadians, so don't worry about it.
What?
I said I'm whiter than most Canadians. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. All right. Thanks. Heidi, do you want to plug your book?
Sure. If you want to catch any of my books, you can go to Amazon.com, either under my pen name and Drayton, or have this one under my real name, Heidi Fetter.
Nice.
But please be 18 or over. Thank you.
As soon as I ask about the recast on Bale and Skull, we'll talk about that on next week's episode of the podcast. I would keep going, but Brock just isn't feeling well. And that's why, Brock, you were always scum.
Rebel scum.
Scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.